Hey everybody, this is Brendan Hauser with EVOQ Bike. Welcome back to the podcast. I have Landry Bobo with me here. We have another pro training breakdown, which is super interesting. We're going to look at Jonas Abrahamsen. Man, that was a mouthful for me. Landry, do a quick intro. Who is Jonas for people that might not know him? And we'll jump right into the training so people can understand how they can take what he's doing and apply it to their training to get faster.
Yeah, so I didn't even really know who he was until last year in the tour, but if you watched the tour last year, you'll remember who he was. Big, ripped Norwegian guy on X that was in the polka dot jersey for like the first 12 stages of the race. And pretty sure I saw him either attacking or doing a lead out every single day. So, and then he's also the weight guy who apparently a lot of people could probably relate to this. I can relate to this, but underfueled himself until like age 26 and then realized, hey, this isn't working. And so he started talking to a nutritionist, and basically he went from 5'9" or like 1.77 meters, grew like 3 inches, and then gained 20 kgs from like 60 to 80 kilograms
Crazy.
at like age 28. So he just like basically went through puberty at age 28 and got way stronger. So
That's wild. It's 20 kgs is so mega.
yeah.
Let's jump into the 4 types of training that you've uncovered that he's been doing. And first one is some 6 by 20 minute LT1s. First off, what is LT1? Reminder for people, and how is he executing this ride?
Yeah. So if you watched the UAE training video, which we posted before this, I'm pretty sure we posted this before this, but yeah. So LT1, VT1 aerobic threshold is going to be top end of zone 2. So kind of right around 75 to 80% of FTP for most people. There's no way to know for sure unless you get lab testing, but that's basically just the point of like highest aerobic efficiency. And it's really useful for building your base. So 6 by 20 minute LT1 is one that we see him do all the time. In the winter, he adds a cadence component because he stays in Norway in the winter. So he does a lot of these rides on the trainer. So he'll do one of them at like 90 RPM and he'll do the other one at like 50 or 60, which is interesting. I don't know if that's just to keep it interesting or what the reason for that would be, but that's an interesting little tidbit. But definitely really similar to what we were talking about at UAE is just this high zone 2. It basically intervals is one that he does all the time.
And if you're listening, you're thinking 6 by 20, there's no way I can do this yet. Start at 2 by 20. Start at 3 by 20. You need almost any type of race that you are going to be doing, unless it's a 40-minute crit. You should be able to ride at an hour of your high zone 2 low tempo for sure. If you're a gravel racer, it goes way beyond that. But don't let that shake you or make you feel bad about yourself. If you can't do it yet, just start working on it. These types of rides are super fun. Athletes love these because you are just flying down the road compared to a normal zone 2 ride. Let's talk about 8 by 8 minute threshold. This is a big dog session. Tell me more about this.
Yeah, this is an interesting one that I haven't really seen a lot of other riders do, but it's really a staple session that he does all the time. But it's 8 by 8 minutes at a roundabout threshold. So it seems like a lot of times he'll start kind of more at like a quote unquote sweet spot power, so sub threshold, and then he'll progress the power every time to the point where maybe the last 3 or even 4, he's really getting to more of that VO2 max power. So instead of like what we would typically think of with like a 4 by 8 minute where you're going ballistic on every single one of them, it seems like he has his first few repetitions are more controlled and he progresses with every single one of them. And I have maybe some theories as to why he does that. But yeah, that's one that he likes to do a lot.
Hit us with the theories. What are you thinking?
Well, if we were to contrast this to like a 4 by 8 session, let's say let's say we have 4 by 8s, but then you do 4 by 8 minute at like sweet spot beforehand, then I feel like the high intensity 4x8s, you're actually going to be able to spend more time at VO2 max because you're already going to be a little bit fatigued from the first intervals. So it might be a little bit better for training VO2 max. And then also just banking a little bit more time at that high intensity to just really build that engine. So, probably the same benefits as a 4x8, but even more effective from a VO2 max and muscular endurance standpoint. So when you look at Jonas on the front or in the breakaway every single day at the tour, probably a pretty useful session for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel, and this is just one person's how I've been taking in what people talk about in training, is that we talk so much about the optimization of everything that who brought up, it might have been, oh man, I can't remember if it was Nate that brought up just time and zone. I feel like 7-8 years ago, time and zone was talked about all the time. How much time and zone are you going to spend at VO2? How much time and zone are you going to spend at threshold? While theories on how to train threshold have changed, and maybe time and zone's not the best way to improve your FTP, there's something to be said if you know that you crumble after 30 minutes of threshold training and you're going to go do a long bike race, you might get some fatigue resistance at that power. And these types of workouts that you're talking about, you're not killing yourself the whole time. You're doing low threshold and then adding on some meat to the workout at the end.
Yeah.
There's no like perfect test to say that this works or does not work, but just being able to ride at such a high intensity for such a long period of time, I can't see that making you any slower.
For sure.
So yeah, interesting session for sure. We'll talk about how the amateurs can apply this to their training at the end. The next one comes up, which we saw from another athlete on the podcast, heat training. How's he doing this?
Yeah, so this is something a lot of pro riders have started doing. And it seems like he does it really regularly, like 3 or even 4 or 5 days per week year round. And it's basically you put on a bunch of clothes, you get on the trainer with no fan, and you ride at low zone 2 power for maybe 45 minutes to an hour. And if you look at Jonas's heart rate graph, his heart rate will start at like 115, and by the end it's up to 160. So this is like crazy amount of strain on the body in only like an hour. And he does this year round.
Wow. So do you think does he just do this at the end of a ride? Like he's still doing normal rides and then coming home and doing this? Or if he's doing it that often, how does he work this into his schedule?
Yeah, he's crazy. He'll go do 6-hour ride and then get on the trainer for an hour and do this routinely.
Wow. Okay. So really good for adapting to heat, assuming probably some increased plasma volume, or what do you think about like on the physiological side of things?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of benefits to this. So physiologically, there's a lot of benefits for, like you said, increased plasma volume, which basically will improve your blood flow. It'll allow your heart to more easily pump the blood to your muscles. So it has been shown to even improve VO2 max and FTP. It'll help you to stay hydrated more easily. So when you get dehydrated, your plasma volume actually decreases, and it makes it harder for your body to circulate blood, which is why your heart rate increases. And then naturally, of course, it's really good for adapting to the heat. So if you know you struggle in the heat, you're racing in Georgia in August and it's going to be 90 degrees. This could be a good session. So
could this be like something similar to altitude training, or maybe like a substitute if people don't have access to training at altitude?
yeah, so I think a lot of these adaptations are similar to what you could get at altitude. So if you aren't able to train at altitude like a lot of people, this is a good hack.
You just got to get out and do it. I mean, I'm thinking about Tulsa, and I should probably do some of these sessions is come home, put the clothes on, and just get it done. Or rainy day, maybe I stay inside and just close all the doors and windows and
I really don't want to try this.
hate myself for an hour. I did some of this when I was first coming back, and it is crazy. The heart rate it felt like a way more challenging ride than I could have physically done, as my leg was still pretty mangled. But okay, what about massive rides, massive weeks, big hours? UAE was not doing this. If you guys saw the video before, what about Jonas?
Yeah, basically the exact opposite. So this just illustrates you know, you might have watched the UAE video and been like, "Oh, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what works." And then you see somebody doing the exact opposite and it's like, "Okay, I don't know what to do now." But Jonas probably averaging 25 hours a week almost year round, but sometimes even hitting 30 plus. I've even seen like 35-hour weeks, 6 to 7 hour rides multiple times per week. So yeah, a lot different.
Mega. Very big contrast to UAE. But Landry said it so perfectly that there's many different ways to train. I think when you set up your program, it's good to look around at what other athletes are doing, but don't let that take you off your path. And I think also in looking at our own paths, what worked in 2025 might not be your solution in 2027 or 2030. So just kind of stay
Yeah.
focused and be nimble with your program. So with all this, should amateurs train this way? What's realistic? What's not?
I mean, of course, almost nobody's going to be able to average 25 hours a week. So I think that's probably not applicable. I mean, if you can, then it might be effective if you think your body responds well to it. I mean, I've never done whenever I've tried to ride that much, I usually just burn out. So I think most people, unless you're a pro rider that can revolve every single aspect of your life around this, that's not obviously realistic. But similar to what we talked about in the UAE video, the aerobic threshold high zone 2 LT1 training, I think is something really beneficial for a lot of riders that you should try. And I think with that style of training, I think it really helps you to focus on just getting in that quality endurance time. So sometimes people see zone 2 on the calendar and they think that that just means to go piddle around. And really, what you want to be doing is you want to be hitting a consistent power. So I think the really focused zone 2 training is really useful for especially amateur riders that have less time to train. And then the heat training, if you have been training for a long time, or not even if you've been training for a long time, but if you have 10 hours per week to train and you're looking for a way that you can get a little bit of extra gains, some quote unquote marginal gains, that could be something to try. Maybe 2 days per week, you do an hour on the trainer with a bunch of clothes on, and you might see some gains from that. So, you know, if it's in the winter and you're doing a 3 hour ride on Saturday on the trainer, maybe the last hour you do a heat training protocol.
I love that idea, especially breaking it up. Just get your riding in. Then when you're sick of looking at Zwift or whatever you ride with, Training Peaks Virtual, go put on the clothes, watch a movie, let your heart rate get crazy high, and just be done with it. I think my last note too, when we're talking about incorporating high zone 2, don't make that every zone 2 ride. Every endurance ride, you're not going to be pegging low tempo. That would be riding too hard. And I would definitely track your training distribution, make sure your hard sessions are still hard, you know, always look at the big picture. But yeah, there's a lot of benefit we think that you can get from incorporating this. Any final words for the peeps?
Only thing I would say is with the high zone 2 training, be careful that it doesn't turn into tempo. So unless there is a risk of this, is if we say train at the top end of zone 2, you are on that precipice of going into zone 3 into tempo zone. So that's why when I give this to athletes, I usually do 75% of FTP. It could be higher towards 80% of FTP, but there's a risk of if you go too high, you could be completely not doing what you want to train and going into tempo zone. So I think RP is really important with this session. If it begins to feel like tempo, you might be going too hard. So keep an eye on, first of all, your RPE. It should feel like, yeah, I'm holding a good pace, but I could hold this for 4 hours if I had to. I might get a little tired at the end. It shouldn't feel like after 30 minutes, you're like really hurting to hold the power, and your breathing should be controlled, and it should feel like you don't have to concentrate too hard on it. If you think about, if you're going to do an hour tempo interval, that takes a lot of concentration. If it's high zone 2, you're still vibing, like you're going a little bit harder, but you're not like completely focused on hitting that power target. So just keep an eye on those sensations, just to make sure you're not ruining your session.
Yeah, and I guess, and not to wave a red flag, maybe the session won't get ruined, but you'll be way more fatigued, and you might have to alter the sessions afterwards. But
yeah, I mean, you really wouldn't be training what we're after with it either. I mean, you would be going more into that carb burning zone, which is kind of what you want to avoid with the zone 2 training. So
awesome. Thanks, Landry. If you guys have questions, hit us up. If you need a coach, get after it with us. And if you need help with finding a training plan, let us know. Good luck with your training and racing. We'll talk to you guys soon.